Hi everybody, I am so glad to talk to each of you today and talk to you a little bit about listening to hear and not to speak. I apologize that my clicker is not working, so I will be tapping on my computer to advance my slides, but it's something that I am working on. But I wanted to talk to you about listening to hear and not to speak. So think about how your last conversation with somebody went. Were you talking a lot? Were they talking a lot? How did you leave that concept? How did you leave that conversation? Did you feel good about the conversation? I thought about this a lot, and I have a really good friend that every time you talk to him, you just feel good when you leave having that conversation with him. And I was thinking about what he does differently than other people, and I caught on that what he does is he never talks about himself. All he does is ask questions, he listens intently, and he never interrupts. And as I was doing a little bit more studying, I realized how important this is, this skill of listening intently is, and what it can do for others. So, when we think about where we learn to listen, most of us have probably learned to listen like from maybe our parents, or maybe we've listened from school. But where I learned to listen is I was in the direct sales world. I worked in the field and I was seeking out training, and I went to this training with the Direct Selling World Alliance. And what they taught was how to coach others into doing things for themselves, really getting them from where they want to be to from where they are to where they want to be. And it's by building that bridge through coaching. And coaching is all about listening. And as I was at this seminar and I thought about this, a light bulb went off, and I thought, I talk way too much. I was one that if I was at a party, I was thinking about the next thing I was going to say because I wanted to be part of the conversation. And I realized that this isn't the important thing. The important thing isn't being part of the conversation. The important thing is about how you make others feel around you. And that's where really success comes in. So let's look at it. Why and how should we listen? We should listen without distractions. There's so many distractions in this world. Think about it. What is one thing that we all have all the time when usually with us? Our cell phones. How do you feel when somebody is distracted by their cell phone and having a conversation with you? Recently, I had a friend over and we were sitting and talking, and I hadn't talked to her in a while, and she sat on her phone the whole entire time we were having this conversation. And I thought about it. How did that make me feel? I felt horrible the whole time. I thought, she doesn't care what I have to say. I feel like what I have to say is not important, because what is more important is what she is doing on her phone. That's what was perceived for me. So let's think about this. When we're talking to something, what are we saying to that other person that is speaking to us? Are we listening intently? Are we, engaged? Are we making them feel important? So whatever it is, we have to make sure that it is something that, that we make them feel good about themselves. And we want to go away from that conversation. And I want everyone to go away from every conversation that I have with them with that same feeling that I have from my friend that is really good about listening and asking questions. So let's look at this. Are you really listening? In a Harvard Business Review, they talked about this. They talked about listening and responding. Like, how are you listening? Are you listening with your whole body, your tone, what you say, how you respond? All of those things are very important. So, it's important to remember that active listening, it is a forgotten dimension of managerial communications. And what this whole article was about was how a man just left school. He just left his MBA at Harvard. He went into this organization to lead. And what he found was he didn't want to listen to his employees. He wanted to seem as if he was important and what he had to say was the most important, and he didn't think that they knew what they were talking about because he was the educated one, when in reality that wasn't it at all. And he realized that all of his employees were really not being very productive. They weren't producing well. And so what he discovered is that when he would stop what he was doing and listen to them intently, and he changed that one thing, they all started to feel valued and they began to perform. So wow, that one little thing, changing that one little thing in his business. So it's important that we're listening and responding with our body language, and our tone. Are we listening intently? Are we engaged? Are we leaning in? Are we looking at them? Are we watching for the way that they say things, not just what they're saying? And is our response letting them know that we are listening to them? Listening is really a two-sided phenomenon. It's not just listening with your body, but it's listening with your tone and how you engage these people. It's all very, very important. The other thing is, listening, the attitude of the listener. So if someone's speaking to you as the listener, what's your attitude? Do they think that you don't want to hear them? Or do they feel that you are engaged with them? That is a very important aspect of listening also. So let's look at this last thing. Use the use of technical skills. So your body language, your voice inflection, eye contact, and the overall perception that they have. What is their overall impression with you? What is the impression that you want to give to them? And I love this next quote because it says, awareness is the starting place for all change in life. It's so important to be aware. And I think that's the first key. We all listen and we're learning these things and we're learning these skills and we're like, okay, what can I do to be a better listener? Well, to be a better listener, you can change. So first off, we're aware, right? So we now know that maybe we don't do something as well as we can. So what can I do to do it better? You know what? You can be the change. You don't just have to accept it and move on. While yes, I was having the conversation with my friend and I felt that her phone was more important, be the change that you make sure you don't do that to somebody else. I don't feel that it's my passion to be out there and criticize everyone that has a conversation with me, that talks to me that way. But what I do want to do is make sure when I have conversations with somebody, they don't feel that way that I felt when we were talking and she was on her phone. So the next thing we can do is educate others. In forums, we can write blogs, we can talk about it in avenues like this. We can let others know how important it is to listen and that listening is a skill that each of us can learn. And the last thing is we can be that example for others to follow. When we can be that example for others, like my friend was an example for me, he sparked the change. He sparked the desire in me to want to change. So let's look at it. How can we be successful? According to Lois Zachary and Lori Fisher in Student Affairs Today, they talked about a few things to set the stage for active listening. They had 4 things. The first one was set the stage for active listening. So if you're having a conversation with somebody, if say they're coming into your office, you can turn your computer monitor off. You can make sure your phone is turned upside down and on silent. Whatever it is to make sure that you're not going to get distracted by anything. The second thing you can do is just pay attention to them. Lean into them. Look at them in the eye. Make them feel valued. The third thing that you can do is clarify things that they're saying. If someone says to you, I am so frustrated with this, you can say, I understand that you're frustrated. That's the key. Use the same words that they use. Don't say, I hear that you're really irritated. While you might describe their frustration as irritation, they don't see it as that. They feel frustrated. So clarify what they're saying by using their same words back to them. Acknowledge their feelings by clarifying. Let them know that you feel for them, that you understand how they're feeling and you want them to be valued. So the next thing we can do is try something new. Listen next time. Try not to be the only one talking all the time. Have a conversation. Focus on one thing at a time. It'll be very difficult when you're not used to this to get in and change it all the time. But if you can just be aware of, hey, next time I have a conversation, I'm not going to look at my phone. Whatever it is, just be aware and focus on that one thing until you can make that change. And last but not least, I want you to have this quote by Anais Nin, who said, "We see the world not as it is, but as we are." Be that change in the world. Be the person that makes that change for others, and be that change that makes others feel so good. So when they walk away from your conversation, they feel as good as I did when I had that conversation. So I'd like to thank my mother for being my audience today. Thank you.